Are you listening? This ain't no quiet thing. We're screaming out our lungs. Hey, are you listening? Hey, are you there? Hey, are you listening? Or do you just not care?
It is time for Hey, Are You Listening? This is a podcast exploring the past, the present, and maybe even the future of Christian music. My name is Joel, and I'm here with my good friend Brandon, and we connected over a mutual love of some particular artists, but also have different tastes and have experienced this world at different times. And so we get to expose each other to some things from time to time. It's a fun journey for us, and we also get to invite some friends along for the ride. And today we have a friend with us who is here. You may know him from his work as a pastor at Deer Park Baptist, from his years teaching high school and middle school, his time as an adjunct at Charleston Southern University, or his days playing in the bands No Mere Star or Archimedes Death Ray. Please welcome my good friend, Andrew Blalock. Andrew, what's up?
And that was a wild introduction. That's all I gotta say. It's good to be here.
I wanted to do you justice. Felt like it was important. Oh man, it's good to have you on. We've been talking about this for a while, and so that's a good time. Tell us, Andrew, a little bit about yourself and kind of how you found your way into the world of music and Christian music.
Yeah, so growing up, my dad was a pastor. My mom was a music major in college, and so sort of the perfect storm to get into Christian music. And I remember as a kid listening to all the CCM classics, but when I was a really small kid, I would only fall asleep if we played this tape of George Beverly Shea singing the Old Rugged Cross.
Love it.
That's probably where it started. And I remember, probably my first concert was the Newsboys, seeing Third Day and Jars of Clay and Caedmon's Call before they were big time, at different festivals, and DC Talk. I mean, all these guys. I grew up with that. By the time we got to middle school, we were sort of branching out and musically away from the maybe Audio Adrenaline's kind of like the transitional kind of band for us, and then getting into like ska, Supertones, Five Iron Frenzy, the Insiders, and then into punk bands like MXPX and Slick Shoes, and then into like more heavy hardcore kind of stuff. So I was lucky to grow up in a time when there was a ton of really cool cutting edge Christian music. So that's kind of my backstory with that.
Yeah, I always feel that way too, that I feel like the moment in history that I got the chance to like grow up in and be at like a formative stage of my life was just and probably everybody maybe feels this way, but I felt like it was like the sweet spot. Like there's no other time I would have wanted to grow up in because I just loved everything that was out there. It was kind of fun. Yeah, we have similar histories. Sure. I just never went like as heavy as you and all of that stuff. But that's a lot of fun.
I'm going to confess there's a little bit of jealousy or a lot of jealousy around hearing this. Because I feel like Audio Adrenaline and all, like they retired before like I could even drive. And I remember even the bands I grew up with, I was so excited to be like, man, I can't wait till I have money to where I can like travel and go see them play. Then all of them just like retire. So I'm just like hearing this just throwing around me like, yeah, we saw them before they were big. And I'm like, I didn't even see them when they were big.
It is kind of a bummer for you, Brandon, that you jumped in at a point when they were kind of nailing the coffin lid onto Christian music. And you're like,
the whole
wait,
music
no.
industry kind of died.
You're like, can we open this back up again? Like, the good news is that I feel like we're going through a moment maybe of some rebirth, which is cool. And one of the fun things to kind of deal with on this podcast. So Well, I've got for you guys a game today just to kind of draw us into where we are and to test your knowledge of this whole thing. And so we're going to play a brand new game. It's called Youth Group Time Machine. And so in Youth Group Time Machine, I'm going to give you a year, and the two of you get to tell me what albums that you think were playing in youth groups that year. And so does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So you'll have a year, and you kind of give me what you think was hot that year and got played a lot. And so the year that I'm going to give you is 2003. 2003. So in 2003, what was playing in on Wednesday nights at youth group? What was hot?
The Supertones.
The Supertones. That's it.
That would
Yeah.
have been Supertones. That one that's terrible after Strike Back. Oh, that's terrible. I shouldn't say that.
I don't. Strike Back came out like late 90s, probably. I don't even.
Yeah, but then I feel like Chase the Sun was a little while after that.
Yeah.
And it's a half good record.
I honestly gave up after Strike Back, although I loved that album. That was kind of the end point for me. Yeah,
I was a senior in 2003. You think I would know, but
yeah, you would. I don't actually know if they were playing Supertones or not. That's great. That's a good question.
I'm gonna throw out Audio Adrenaline Worldwide.
Audio Adrenaline Worldwide. Yeah, as you guys talk about this, I'm going to be doing a little bit of research on my own because I don't have all this figured out. But we're going to find out. If
the Newsboys might have still had Peter Furler singing at that point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
That would have been
like a disco record.
Oh, Love, Liberty, and Disco. So
yeah, I didn't listen to that one.
Worldwide did come out in 2003. Let's see, Newsboys.
Honestly, I was just trying to think of an album that came out in 2003.
Love, Liberty, Disco was 1999, guys.
What?
It's way off.
That can't be true.
03 was it like Adoration or Devotion? I think that was like the worship period of Newsboys.
03 was Greatest Hits.
Oh.
Adoration came out in 2003. Yeah, that's when the whole worship thing started to happen. Was right then. So that's interesting. They rode that train for 20 years.
For sure.
Holy cow. That's wild. Yeah, what else? A pretty pivotal record came out in 2003.
The Beautiful Letdown?
Zayo's Self-Titled. No, that's 90 or 2000.
It was The Beautiful Letdown by Switchfoot. It came out in 2003.
Were youth groups listening to it, though?
I would hope so. I wasn't in a youth group in 2003. Although I was, I guess earlier in the year, I was volunteering with my student ministry. So I would hope. Why would they not?
I was 11. I wasn't hanging out with teenagers.
It was a huge album. Huge album. So yeah, I think probably that one was up there. I don't think they were playing Zayo in student ministries. Any other thoughts or ideas?
I got nothing.
I'm trying to think of stuff. I think John Rubin released the Professional Rapper in 2003. Mm-hmm. Youth groups in Ohio were listening to that.
John Rubin, the Professional Rapper. That came out in 2003. You're like tuned in, man. That's cool.
There's that random file of all the album release dates that I memorized. That like my mom was like, "Why is Brendan spending hours on Wikipedia?" And this is why.
There you go.
I'm really bad at differentiating years in the past.
I'm just glad you said 2003 because I was like, if you call it like 1997, I'm gonna be like, did Newsboys do something?
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did. So there'd be plenty to go off of. All right. Well, that's a pretty good jump back into the past, looking in 2003. Let's move on a little bit from there and just talk about what we've been listening to lately. So what have you guys been listening to?
So for me, I've been listening to the new, I don't even know how you say his name, Paul Meany or Maney. The guy from Mute Math dropped a new solo album that reminds me a lot of Mute Math stuff. I'm really digging that album so far.
Yeah, I actually was going to say the same thing, Andrew. Well, you texted me when it was dropping, but I also had seen, I think I'd already watched like one of the clips from like the opening song on that record, Forever Face. And I'm like, this is good stuff. It's a lot of fun. Have you ever listened to Mute Math?
Mm-mm.
Man, well, the funny thing is, you're a huge 21 Pilots fan.
Uh-huh.
And like Paul Meany almost basically was a member of 21 Pilots for like a
really?
while.
Yeah.
Do you know the history there?
Not really. I just happened to see something about it online this week.
There's like there was 21 Pilots / Mute Math like releases that came out almost, and I think he produced like a lot of their really recent stuff.
Oh, okay.
And the guy who's the lead singer of Mute Math. And some people consider that, yeah, he was like a member of the band.
Yeah.
That he was actually in 21 Pilots. And
Oh,
so
okay.
you should check it out. You'd probably dig it. But Paul Meany, yeah, he just dropped a new album called Forever Phase. And Andrew, you mentioned to me, you were like, this is actually a pretty Christian record.
Yeah.
And I was reading through the lyrics and I was like, whoa, this is like, it's more like facing towards his faith than any Mute Math stuff ever was, which is interesting. Yeah. So that's kind of fun. What about you, Brandon? What have you been listening to?
So I like to do this thing that whenever an album like is in its anniversary year, I think it's cool to like rediscover, or sometimes it's just accidentally I start listening and I realize that.
Yeah.
But like stuff that's like 2020, 2010, like 1995 or whatever. And John Rubin's last release was in 2020. And it was funny because it was right before like COVID hit. So I remember being like, this is going to be an incredible year. And then COVID hit. And I was like, well, at least we got one more John Rubin album before everything just went down. But I really enjoyed it. I feel like it's like maybe the best like album he like put out. So I feel like it's cool when someone's like 20 years into their like career and they're still putting out stuff, which I know for you guys, you probably have artists that's the same way where you're like, it's like, how is this person still like putting out stuff that's like, you know, quality and all. So it's a really good album. So
That's cool. I noticed the other day, Andrew, did you see this 5 Iron Frenzy like teasing new music or new record?
I did see that. That's I feel like they break the internet every time they drop a new album somehow.
They broke Kickstarter, like literally when they set the record for like the biggest Kickstarter ever when they first came back. That's been blown out of the water since then, but like, but yeah, who knows what that'll end up looking like, but it's pretty fun. All right, so one of the things that we like to do when we have a guest on is to let our guests bring one of their favorite records to us for us to spend some time with. So, Andrew, what album have you brought to us today to talk about?
So I picked something that's not super representative of what I listen to frequently, but it's an album that when I was a kid, I talked about, you know, like playing those tapes at night. Like I would always go to sleep listening to music, and this is one of those albums that, as I grew up, would find its way in my tape deck on a frequent basis, and that's Steven Curtis Chapman's The Great Adventure. I probably haven't listened to this in 30 years until we revisited it.
I think that was true for me too. When I texted you and said, all right, Andrew, like what albums would you possibly want to talk about? The first one on your list was The Great Adventure by Steven Curtis Chapman. And at first I thought it was a total joke because this is not representative of you at all, at least what I know of you. But we're getting to discover a whole new part of Andrew that I didn't even know existed in talking through this. And so, like you, I don't think I've listened to this album probably in about 30 years. Who knows? But but yeah, I was kind of like, this is fun, getting to dig into something, because this record is a pretty, like, it's a staple in the world of Christian music, of CCM. And so, Brandon, for you, like, when I texted you and said, here's what we're covering, like, what do you know about Steven Curtis Chapman, or this album in particular?
So Steven Curtis Chapman, that was the first concert I ever went to.
Really?
He was headlining Winter Jam.
Oh, so you heard The Great Adventure live.
Yeah, I definitely. I don't know if any of these songs are still around, but yeah, he's one of those artists. There's a trend on here that I don't know if you guys have picked up on, that there's so many artists that Joel mentions, and I know them from all of their later work.
Yeah.
So like Starflyer, I'm like, yeah, 2005 on, and Joel's like, Brandon, what? that's not Starflyer.
It is. We love all Starflyer.
And I think with Steven Curtis Chapman, like it was surprising to me. Like I knew he'd been around for a while, but like it was surprising scrolling down the albums till I could like listen to it, and just seeing like how long he had been around. And like also just like you talked about, like I want to say it was ranked like number 30 or something when someone made a list of like the top Christian albums of all time.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's interesting. And honestly, Andrew, like I think these types of reviews are really cool, because it's like, it's cool when you get to dive into it as well, instead of just being like, here's why every track is amazing. Instead, it's like, we're all going in the time capsule like itself. So you get to reach in and be like, why is there a screwdriver in here? Like, what?
That's funny. Well, I've got a little bio from it that I pulled from online, so I'll read through this and then we can talk through maybe any other opening thoughts we have. But so The Great Adventure is the 5th album released by Christian singer Steven Curtis Chapman. The 5th blew me away a little bit, because I'm like, I don't know if I know really much Steven Curtis Chapman before this. But the album was released on June 19th, 1992 by Sparrow Records. It went gold in just under 1 year. It was listed at number 33 in the 2001 book CCM Presents the 100 Greatest Albums in Christian Music. It brought Chapman several Gospel Music Association awards at the 24th Annual Dove Awards in '93, including Song of the Year, Pop Contemporary Recorded Song of the Year, and Short Form Music Video of the Year for the title song, all those, and the Pop Contemporary Album of the Year. And the album also won the 1993 Grammy Award for Best Pop Contemporary Gospel Album. The album also features guest appearances by artists like Toby Mac, B.B. Winans, and Ricky Skaggs. So this is a heavy hitter in the world of CCM. And so we're going to get into it, and we're going to be real and honest as much as we can be, while still deeply loving Steven Curtis Chapman. So it's going to be a fun conversation. Do you guys have any other opening thoughts before we kind of hit track by track on this one?
Yeah, we need to do a breakdown one day on Steven Curtis Chapman's hair through the years. Like, that dude, he's had everything, and it's amazing. And he's still rocking cool hair. And yeah, I respect the guy, and I respect his hair.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. He was really able to pull off a mullet pretty well at one point in that time. But can we just like go ahead and say that like Steven Curtis Chapman really is one of the coolest guys. I still follow him. I follow him on social media, and the dude he'll sit there with an acoustic guitar and like jam out one of his songs, and like his whole heart and passion is in that thing. I think he's doing a tour now for his Speechless record as like an anniversary. It's like his first like really big full band tour in like a while, which is pretty cool. He's still going, and he obviously has kids that are deeply involved in the music scene too, which is kind of a fun thing.
Like when I think of Steven, like I said, he was at Winter Jam, and I remember I think it was like him and like Jeremy Camp were like the two headliners that year. And I remember leaving being like, I think Steven Curtis Chapman was like my favorite performer.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm like 13 or 14. And so to me, like that says something when like as a teenager, it's like you're walking away being like, yeah, Jeremy Camp was cool, but he's no Steven Curtis Chapman. And like at Winter Jam, I shared this, I think a few weeks ago, that like, I just remember him being like, hey everyone, so my son, him and his friends, they play music. So I'm going to like leave the stage for 10 minutes and they're just going to play. And I'm just like, I don't know of another artist that could just midway through their set be like, hey everyone, my son's going to come play and you're going to listen to him. Like, it's just, you're like, this guy's, who's going to say no to Steven Curtis Chapman?
Right. Yeah. What a cool opportunity for them. Yeah, that's awesome. All right. Well, let's get kind of into this track by track a little bit. And so I had forgotten, Andrew, you mentioned in this to me, the first track, Prologue. I had forgotten that thing existed.
Me too.
What did you guys think about that one?
Man, it took me by surprise when I pressed play and I heard this like orchestral overture start. That was somewhere between like the Prometheus soundtrack and the Pocahontas soundtrack. I was like, what is happening right now? This is the coolest way to start an album of all time. And like the way it just seamlessly like transitions into the first real song is just, it's crazy. So it definitely like my excitement shot through the roof as soon as I encountered that.
This is like really good music. I know as I was listening back through it, I was like, this is super epic. Like this is like movie soundtrack kind of stuff. And so I thought that was cool. The interesting thing is I don't really think Steven had anything to do with this song. But he
wasn't playing the French horn.
No, he didn't write it, but he gets the credit for it because it's on his record. So I thought this was awesome. Brandon, what'd you think?
I liked it. I love whenever stuff like opens up with like a prologue or something like that. I think it adds, and I mean, I know it's repetitive, but I feel like an opening to an album is like super important. So I feel like it's like a really cool, and like y'all were saying, it surprises you. Like I'm expecting just like to hear him sing in like acoustic guitar or something. So when you're hit with that, you're like, this is pretty cool.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of an opening track to a certain House of Heroes record.
Yeah.
With the
Yeah.
Anyways. All right. So track number 2, we can just be honest. The Great Adventure. This is the heavy hitter on the album. This is the song that won all the awards. This is the centerpiece, the iconic song, I feel like, of this record. Talk to me about The Great Adventure, guys.
You want to go first?
No, I want you to go first.
I wrote down, it felt like a song I'd hear at VBS. I'm sorry. It's catchy. Like, it's catchy, but the whole time I was like, thinking about like when you're at VBS and you have like the guy that's trying to climb the mountain and he's singing with like the rock climber and he's like, Jesus is there. And yeah, I feel like the opener, it lifted my hopes too high. So then with this song, I was like, oh man, I kind of go back to that prologue for a second. What'd y'all think?
Oh man, Brandon, you're not ready to saddle up your horses. You're not there. That's such a bummer. I mean, obviously, I've probably heard this song 1,000 times in my life, and it's super iconic. Ironically, Jeff Moore of Jeff Moore in the Distance co-wrote this with Steven. And so just the opening guitar, it's one of I think the first things that I learned how to play on the guitar, that little like kind of palm muted, like opening part. I think it's great. With you a little bit. The only thing like holding this back for me is it's just pretty superficial, right? I mean, there's no real depth to the song at all in any way, and so it does just kind of feel like I get what you're saying. I could see us settling up our horses at VBS, but it's a classic, man. It's so good.
Well, my memory of this song was totally unreliable because in my head it was almost like an acoustic, just like bare, stripped down.
Really?
This is the great adventure, and I don't know if that's from seeing it performed live differently or what, but my memory was just absolutely unreliable, and like hearing the overdrive guitar and all that stuff, like that, it caught me off guard a little bit. But like the production value is so astronomically high. I mean, it's situated in its time, like it sounds like 1992 pretty distinctly,
Yeah.
but you could just like feel like there's a lot of arrangement, a lot of you know, carefully layered stuff going on this song.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. I think for him, just in classic songs. I was actually going to look to see on his. It's interestingly, it's in the top 5 Steven Curtis Chapman songs, but it's not the number one, which maybe I would have thought is where it
What
would
is
have ended
Dive
up.
In or something?
Yeah, Dive is definitely up there. So, yeah, I think it's great. I love it. So track 3 takes us to Where We Belong. What do you guys think about this one?
So for me, the thing that like most stood out was the bass, and kind of the bass on the whole album was a little bit interesting. Like it was some kind of 5 or 6 string bass. It got really low and
Yeah,
has a really interesting kind of almost grungy sound. Like it reminded me of, this is a weird random Christian emo album, Branston's Letterbox
yeah,
album. It sounded like the bass on that for me, and so all I could picture during this song was just like uh, a dude in like a bowling shirt and a hat, a weird hat, playing the bass on this. I don't know why. That's just the mental image that came up.
that's hilarious.
I liked it. I felt like it had a little more depth. So I feel like I'll be honest, like after hearing the Great Adventure, I was like, oh man, like I don't know how I feel about like looking at the rest. But I felt like I don't know why I shouldn't attack that song. I don't hate the song. I need to make it very clear that I do not judge anyone who likes that song, nor do I hate that song.
Steven, we love your song. Please come on the podcast.
I've never met Steven, but I feel like if Steven told me he was disappointed, it would really hurt me. But but yeah, I liked it, and I liked that it had a little more depth. And I think honestly, like I think Where We Belong is a little more aligned with maybe if I was to have an expectation, like it lines up a little bit more with what like I'm expecting.
Yeah.
So
I made a note about the bass line too, Andrew, and this one I thought it was really really interesting. The bowling shirt makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I didn't super remember this, but as I was reading back through, I was caught with like I mean it's hard to write a song that kind of captures like the story of God from the beginning to the end a little bit, and I actually thought that he did that really well in this song, from finding ourselves in the garden after the fall, and then what comes. I thought it was cool musically and everything. It wasn't my favorite song on the record, but I appreciated where he was going with the lyrics, so I thought that was cool.
one thing I was curious about is like, so I feel like for someone like me, like listening to this, like if I'm being completely honest, a lot of albums from like the 90s and all, like they can come across as like kind of cheesy or like, oh, like I've seen that done all these times. But like like I guess a little context, like in the moment, was this stuff kind of a like I don't know if it hadn't been done before, or it was kind of like, man, Steven, like this is cool, like this is different, like for the time. Like, would y'all say it was, or?
I, so I was 6 when this came out,
Mhm.
but I mean, it felt like to me listening back to it that this would be like fairly cutting edge for CCM
Mhm.
at that time. I don't
Yeah.
know if you have a different thought, Joel.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think that you had before this record, you
Mhm.
had your Michael W. Smiths and your
Yeah.
Amy
Yeah.
Grants, which is more of like almost late '80s, like really
Mhm.
early '90s, like pop
Yeah.
kind of synthesizers and all this kind of stuff. And Steven Curtis Chapman was the guy to say, "No, we're going to pick up a guitar."
Okay. Yeah.
And we're gonna kind of ground all of this and root it again. And so it's kind of bringing like
Mhm.
Americana and roots just kind of back into the forefront of the
Mhm.
world of Christian music, and nobody was really doing that at the time. And
Okay.
so it was,
There, listening back to this record, like there are almost some like Springsteen vibes and
Mhm.
some
yeah,
like Toto vibes that I was picking up on that
yeah,
I didn't really expect. Like his voice is different than any of that, but like the music kind of hits on some of that, which caught me off guard a little bit.
yeah. That's cool. I think that's a fair assessment. So I would say probably like lyrically, maybe this record's pretty kind of par for the course. But I do think musically that he was doing something that
Mhm.
nobody else was
Okay.
doing at this point. Yeah, yeah. So track 4, "Go There with You." Um, I liked this one.
Mhm.
This was kind of, it felt like the epitomes of kind of like a '90s ballad, love song. You've got those like those kind of '90s keys with like a lot of layer on them,
Mhm.
kind of there, and then you've got the really kind of epic like lead guitar kind of thing going on. And so this one's kind of a highlight for me. I feel like you have to kind of put yourself back in that world and in that time to like really enjoy it. Maybe not, but just it just feels very of the time, but like a really good version of like a '90s ballad
Mhm.
back then. So I thought this one was cool.
What about you, Brandon?
Yeah, I liked it too. I felt like it was simple, and I expected it, I think, to stay like really slow. So I enjoyed when it got like a little more like
Yeah,
behind it. Um, but yeah, I enjoyed it, and like yeah, I think that's why I asked the like a question like that, is because I feel like sometimes you can't fully appreciate it, like if you don't understand,
right.
you know, what it's like. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, for me, like when it kind of drops and like all the orchestral sounds come in,
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like it really like filled up the space, and it was definitely probably in my top 2 or 3 songs on the record.
Mm-hmm.
Just like it felt kind of almost like uh, the World Waits Jeremy Enoch record, just from a
Yeah.
very different style. I just enjoy all the fullness of the, whether it's synth or strings or whatever, that really kind of blows it up.
It's the first time I've ever heard a comparison between Stephen Curtis Chapman and Jeremy Enoch. But
I would go to that tour.
I'm here for it. The World Waits is one of my favorite albums of all time. So good.
It's
So
incredible.
yeah, that's great.
The next one is That's Paradise. Um, Andrew, how do you feel about Paradise?
You know, this one wasn't my favorite one on the record. Like the way it starts off, I almost felt like it was like a demo track on a keyboard. Like you just press play and then start singing over it. I don't know. That's really the only thing I wrote down about this one. Oh, the guitar solo was pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I did note that it got pretty wild with toward the end with the guitar.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
actually, I liked the guitar tones on this song. I thought
Yeah,
they were cool. I had a lot of respect for that. I also appreciate a good '90s like story song. It felt very like, yeah, it felt very of the times. Like it kind of reminded me of like a Bryan Adams kind of song. Like I listened to him a lot back in the 90s for whatever reason. And so this one kind of pulled me into that world. But I also at the same time was like, this song's really long and it doesn't need to be as long as it is. But it's still, I like it. I think it's fun.
I felt like it was just pretty cheesy. That's how I put. I felt like I put it kind of in that same category, I guess, as like The Great Adventure. That I just felt like, I don't know. I think just as like a lyric person, like sometimes it's like you can have, it can sound good or whatever, but like it's like the story or like where's it going. So yeah, I feel like for me it kind of dipped back into like the cheesy category.
90s CCM is going to be a bit of a struggle for you as a lyrics person.
I'm learning that. Yeah. That's like I'll go back and I'll be like, man, Audio Adrenaline's awesome. Then every so often I'll catch one of those songs and I'll be like, hey, there's some misses. Everyone's gonna have some misses.
We're a band with guitars in our hand. We're crossing the land.
Okay, that song. It's all we don't.
Oh, I love it. All right. Track number 6 is "Don't Let the Fire Die." Where'd you guys stand on this one?
So my note that I have for this is it reminds me of a song off the latest Dashboard Confessional album. So if you haven't listened to the most recent Dashboard record, it's actually really good.
Which one is the most recent Dashboard record?
I don't even know the name of it now, but I remember seeing him live and I picked up a copy of it, and he's matured. He's talking about adult things now, and he has a song about his family called "Me and Mine."
Okay.
And it's very similar sounding to this one. So I enjoyed this song. I thought it was a cool sort of a respite from some of the other sounds on the album. It gets a little more personal, intimate, quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Brandon, what about you?
Yeah, I was the same way. I liked. I felt like it was a little more like personal, so I enjoyed having that little bit of a shift. I think honestly, for me, this is kind of where the album takes a shift, and I feel like the second half is like a little bit stronger. Which, knowing what's coming up, you guys might strongly disagree with that take, but I think that was where I started seeing this shift where, like, even in my notes, I felt like it was like a couple of words, but then after that, I started getting a little more in depth with like the stuff. So I felt like it was almost like this track itself had a shift, like for the album a little bit differently.
I don't know what it was for me, because I like the guitar work and the way it works with the melody. I can hear it in my head right now, but like at this point, I felt like it kind of felt like more of the same, and I was at the point where I did kind of feel like I wanted something different, and so
I got news for you, buddy. Something different is coming up.
The ironic thing is I got that very quickly. Something different, and then maybe I was wishing that I hadn't gotten it. So with that, let's move to track 7, "Got to Be True." I've just got to hear Brandon's thoughts on this one before anybody else, because something special and very near and dear to his heart happens on this song.
So I was telling Joel earlier, I was like, I don't want to spoil my thoughts on like this record or whatever, but I was like, I don't think there was a song in this album that I started off having one feeling and it shifted so dramatically than this. And I'm gonna be honest, the first 2 lines of this song, so like the first, I don't know, like 10 seconds, I was like, oh my gosh. But then the rest of the song, I love this track. Even before Toby gets on, I'm like, you know what? This is weird and different, but maybe it's just because it's Steven that it's like, I'll allow it. And then when Toby shows up, I'm like, I'm not even expecting that. Like, what a nice surprise. Toby decided to show up.
So, question. Is the first time that you knew that was going to happen when he said, "Now my homeboy Toby wants to talk to you"? Is that the moment where you were like, "Oh my goodness"?
I like how in Christian music it's like, yeah, there's only one homeboy, Toby, and that's Toby Mac. I think what was cool too is that in my mind I was like, oh, Toby's probably gonna bring his friends, which that's cool if he brings his friends, but he's always bringing his friends. So when it was just him showing up, I was like, cool, we get to hang out with just Steven and Toby. Like, it's not a group of us; it's just a trio of us. So I'm probably in the minority in that, but I feel like this song like was a highlight of the album.
This is really early Toby too. How does early Got to Be True Toby compare to the Toby Mac of today?
He was trying hard. It just he finally found
Brandon,
it. This is like
Brandon, I have
literally,
to ask,
yeah.
did you get, like, when they sampled New Thing at the beginning, is that familiar to you as DC Talk?
For me, to DC Talk starts with Jesus Freak.
So, yeah, I was like, did I change the record? What's happening here? I completely forgot this song existed. I start hearing God is doing a new thing, and I'm like, he is, definitely, because I don't know what's happening right now.
So, Brandon, I'd like to challenge you a little bit on your thoughts on DC Talk.
Yeah.
And maybe posit that you should give some earlier DC Talk a little bit of an opportunity in your life. Specifically, not necessarily New Thing, and definitely not the self-titled album that came before it.
Yeah.
But the album between New Thing and Jesus Freak, Free at Last, is a phenomenal record from start to finish. In fact, I know we're not talking about DC Talk here, but I remember Rolling Stone rated Free at Last like stratosphere high. They were like, this is the most groundbreaking thing we've ever heard. Nobody's ever mixed rap and rock together before like this. This is super cool. And then I remember Rolling Stone's review of Jesus Freak, and they were like, why did this really awesome band just sound like Nirvana now? And they're like, all the creativity's gone that they had before. No, I think Jesus Freak's a great record, but you should give Free at Last a shot.
Well, yeah, I know love is a verb. Jesus just all right.
Yeah. There's some good stuff back there. All right, Andrew.
What are the odds Steven Curtis Chapman has ever performed this live?
I bet.
And if there's video of that, how much would he pay to eliminate it from the internet for all time?
I bet that
This is how we get money for the podcast.
I bet there was a Steven Curtis Chapman DC Talk tour at some point, and they probably did it every night.
We need to find out. We need to get your research department on that.
I'll get my guys right on it.
All I can say is GOTTOBTRU.
I will say this. It's definitely not the highlight of the record for me too. It's pretty cringy. You were talking about earlier stuff being cringy. This one like hit really cringy for me, but I at least appreciate the fact that Steven knows that it's cringy. And he's like willing to admit it, that the whole song is just basically like, yeah, this is not for me. But yeah, the ending.
I think it would have been better at like, I guess like as a secret track, like, like way after the end somewhere, or maybe on a separate album that no one ever heard.
You can't put Toby Mac on the secret track though. It just
That's true.
doesn't work that way.
I can confirm on YouTube there is a live version of this, and it is exactly what you would expect.
I can believe that. I can believe that. I can't wait to watch it when this is over. So, awesome. But how about that key change at the end, guys? That's good. That's good.
I feel like I should have saved my comment about there's a shift in like this album.
It definitely woke me up a little bit when that song came on.
Yep. I needed that. All right, track 8, Walk with the Wise. Thoughts?
So I don't know how you come out of what we just got into something else. But I feel like they do a pretty good job. Like, this is where I get Toto vibes on this song,
Yeah. I
with
can
all
hear
the
that.
bongos and congos, and it sounds like either a 12-string guitar or something that's capoed really high, or I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. It kind of it does a good job of reestablishing, hey, we're back to like real music now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can feel that. I thought that I like the guitar a ton on this one. I thought it was kind of cool. The
Yeah.
chorus is catchy. It's good. Um, the lyrics are, I mean, interesting. Just about,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, putting yourself around people that are wise that can help you grow. There really wasn't anything like explicitly Christian about this song, which is
Mm-hmm.
interesting, other than like hanging out with wise people. But yeah, I liked it.
I think it fits with the album. I think it's like for me it's a little bit of a stronger track, and I think maybe it's just because I don't know, like I said, I felt like the second half just sounded a little bit like different than the
Yeah.
first half. So I think I appreciated that, maybe it's nice it didn't go as far as the previous song, but it was nice that it was a little bit of not just okay, we're getting repetitive here.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that.
Our next track is Maria. Joel, what are your thoughts on Maria?
Yeah, I thought this one was interesting. I like that there's like a variety of instruments at play
Mm-hmm.
on this one. When it started out, it kind of gave me a Jars of Clay vibe, which is interesting
Mm-hmm.
because this is pre Jars of Clay, right? So it's kind of before any of that. But yeah, I it reminded me like of like Frail, like off the
Mm-hmm.
first. I don't know. Anyways, just kind of like a chill thing. I thought this was different for the record
Yeah.
in a good way, but I also think that it probably could have gone somewhere that it didn't really end up going.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So for me, it felt like that he wrote this for a movie that was like the Christian answer to Lethal Weapon 2. And there's a really sad story about a woman named Maria, and um, it was heartfelt, but maybe like a little bit of a like it felt like it didn't quite fit with the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the record to me.
Yeah, I get that.
I for me, I think I appreciated that it doesn't resolve, just in the sense of I feel like I'm so used to like in Christian music there's always this like we set up a problem in the first verse, but then they start reading the Bible in the second verse, and then by the ending chorus like their whole life has changed. And like I think for me it was refreshing that like towards the end of it you don't get that like, oh, this person has came in there.
Right.
It's still this like it ends with like a like who who's going to do this, who's going to help. So I think like lyrically I appreciated that it wasn't just this like nice little story like wrapped up.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. All right, track number 10, Still Called Today. I'm really interested to hear y'all's thoughts on this one.
I think I was starting to get a little fatigued, maybe, of
Mm-hmm.
the CCM vibes by the time this rolled around, and so like I find myself like checking back in about halfway through and being like, "Oh, I missed the start of this," and so yeah, my thoughts are not super well organized. Only thing I wrote down was Duke Silver's saxophone sounded pretty cool.
Okay. Brandon, what about you?
I feel like this is something that like I live by. So there's bonus points of just of like, oh, cool, I agree with that message of this
Yeah.
song. But I'm not familiar with BB Winans. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right.
He's related to CC
It's
Winans.
he, okay. I was gonna ask the question. Like, okay,
It's CC Winans' brother.
But I
have
liked his appearance. I felt like it was cool, like getting something like a little bit different like in there. So I felt like it added, and Because yeah, that's where like I started thinking. Like I even wrote in my notes that like I've really enjoyed this second half a lot more than the first half.
Yeah.
Um,
Guys, I love this song. I don't know what's wrong with especially Andrew. You need to go back and listen
There's
to
a
this
lot
one.
wrong with me.
I thought this one was really cool and different in some really cool ways. I felt like this could have been like the single for the record in like the secular market. That it was like strong enough to stand out there on its own, and it had a message that would have done well. Like life is fast. Like don't wait. As long as it's still called today, just like do it. I thought this was great. BB Winans was a super great addition on this one. So for me, this track like is right up there with The Great Adventure, and one of my two favorite songs on the album. So yeah,
all right, and we come to the finale with Heart's Cry. Andrew, how'd you feel about Heart's Crying?
Heart's Cry was probably my favorite song on the record. I thought it was like the one that like felt the least tied to 1992. Like it was like I felt like it was sort of more timeless than the rest of the album. I like the kind of stripped down guitar, piano, synth, and strings sound, and the lyrics are powerful. The lyric "The cross should have been mine" that really stuck in my heart listening to it. It says, "But his love broke through time and heard my heart's cry." And there's other good lyrics in there too, but that one really caught my attention going through it.
yeah, I really like this one a lot. I think it's hard not to like. This is one of those songs that when it came on, I'm like, oh, I remember this one. Which
Yeah.
I struggle to with a lot of the songs on this record, but this one stood out, and I'm like, I could sing along with it still for whatever reason. It's a beautiful song, and it does have like an earnestness. It feels a lot more grounded and real than like a lot of the other tracks on the record. And I really believe it when he sings it. And the bridge is great. The melody's gorgeous. And so this is definitely one of my top tracks of the record.
We were talking about this on like a previous review, and I made a mention about how like sometimes we focus so much on the beginning of an album, and sometimes we almost expect an album to, I don't know, for that to be where like the songs that maybe aren't the best or whatever. But I felt like it was a great ending. Like by the end of it, I wasn't like wanting to just like skip and be done with it. Like I was wanting to hear it out and like let the album. So I felt like it was. It's always nice having that on an album when you're not ready to be like, all right, are we done yet?
Yeah, it was a really strong closer. If I could add one thing to make it a little better, I would right at the end drop in a GOTTOBTRU.
So Andrew,
it ended perfectly.
Andrew, for you, this is your favorite track on the record. Brandon, what would you say is maybe your favorite one?
Man, I don't know. I might
struggle.
I might go with "Got to Be True" just because that's the one that stood out. So
that's amazing.
You got to be you, man. You got to be you.
Yeah, I think
you
that
got to be true.
I think that, or even like still called today. Like maybe that's the two I'd go with.
Yeah, I it's hard for me. The Great Adventure is The Great Adventure, but I think Still Call Today is the one that I would probably go with. I'll throw The Great Adventure up there, and then I'll bring in Heart's Cry as like a solid right up there with them. I don't know. Those I feel like those are all great songs. So, you guys have any?
You would be my number 2.
Any closing thoughts on the record as a whole for you guys?
So yeah, I was surprised by the sound a little bit. I remembered some of the songs, but I remembered them a little differently. But my respect for Steven Curtis Chapman as an artist is still like super high. Like just the way his whole career and body of work. It's not that I listen to him a ton, but he's a really excellent musician,
Yeah.
composer, and he's a real guy. Like so many of the people
Mm-hmm.
get sort of chewed up and spit out in that industry, and I can only imagine how difficult it is to sustain
Yeah.
an authentic faith through decades of the inauthenticity of the CCM world. So he's definitely got my respect.
I think for me, like, it gives me an appreciation, for like his whole career, for me to be like, oh, that's cool that I know the stuff that I've listened to today that I think is like really good or whatever. So like
Mm-hmm.
for me, like not listening to a lot of like that like era or whatever, it's easy for me to think, oh, this is cheesy or whatever. But like to me, it's cool to go back and get like a history lesson on like, oh, this is what music was. This is why he was popular.
Yeah.
But also just seeing this like evolution of an artist. Like to me,
Mm.
it's cool to see like, I mean, like we keep making fun of the Toby Mac track, but I think it's so cool to see how like you see those two guys, and then you fast forward what 30 years, and like there's still two of the most like I would say recognizable like people in the
Yeah.
industry, but also just to see that like yeah, like they kept on changing, and like and so to me it's just like I'm the same way. I walk away with an appreciation for Steven.
Yeah, he doesn't show off on this album,
Mm-hmm.
but is- he's one of the best guitar players in Christian music.
For sure.
He's an incredible guitar
Mm-hmm.
player. He's an album, a couple of albums from now, is probably my favorite Stephen Curtis Chapman album. It's called Signs of Life, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a record that's man, he plays the guitar on that thing, and I feel like it's I think I read somewhere him say that he typically would write albums focused on melodies and then kind of add music underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
But on Signs of Life, he started with the music and kind of built on top of there, and so I loved that record a lot. But I feel like that helps me as I listen to this realize, because I feel like a lot of times we can listen to a CCM record like this and say, well, how much did Stephen Curtis Chapman actually have to
Mm-hmm.
do with this album and these songs? But he's a super talented guy, and like
Mm-hmm.
we said, I think just a real earnest and genuine guy. And so, like you guys are saying, I'm thankful for his impact in the world and in the industry, and thankful that he's still out there doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really awesome. So, what would you guys rate The Great Adventure by Stephen Curtis Chapman? Where would you fall?
So I think it probably is somewhere between maybe like a 3.6, 3.7 for me. It's got some really good highlights, but it doesn't have the consistency all the way through to be like a 4 for me.
Yeah, I hear that. I'm pretty close to you, Andrew, in it. And Brandon and I have talked before about sometimes it's like hard to objectively look at a record and not take nostalgia out of it and all those different kinds of things. But I think it's okay to let nostalgia like speak into where
Mm-hmm.
an album falls for us. And so I feel like I'm somewhere right around in the same spot, like probably a 3.5 for
Mm-hmm.
me. And just realizing like the importance and the impact of this record on the industry as a whole. I don't. It's weird to say, but I don't think you would have a band like Jars of Clay
Mm-hmm.
without having Stephen Curtis Chapman in a moment like this. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a really important record.
Yeah, I think legacy wise, like I give it like a 4.5. I think for me personal wise, it's closer to like a 2. But I
So that averages out somewhere in the threes.
I think that's like I think that's the problem, is not having like the nostalgia.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I feel like that's the struggles. I try to think of what is like am I adding this to my playlist afterwards or whatever. But like honestly, going back, like it, I always have this fear that I'm like, oh, is there gonna be anything on this album, or is there gonna be what? But I might not be adding this to my playlist, but like I really did enjoy like going back, and I feel like honestly, like it really makes me like in the coming week, like to start going through Steven Curtis Chapman's like his library, because
Yeah.
honestly, like I love the guy, but I can maybe tell you a handful of songs. So
Right.
I feel like this album wise, I might not be like putting like on repeat, but I'm really excited to go back and kind of like listen to more, like to see like
Yeah.
what was the evolution like? How did this change from his first release or like, his later releases? So like I feel like when you give a low grade, it's like you hated an album, but it's like I love getting to listen to this, and I
So why do you
really,
hate it?
what'd you say?
Why do you hate it then? I'm just kidding. Sorry.
But I honestly I love when people bring stuff like this. Like it's like in college, I tell people that like my favorite classes, if I went back, I think I made C's in all of them. Like I wasn't good in the classes,
Right.
but I learned so much from them. And so like albums like this, like I love getting to go back and be like, yeah, like I want to in the future I want to learn more about like why was this groundbreaking, instead of something that I listened to 30 years later and I go,
Right.
oh, this sounds like something that I would hear like in a church growing up, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like understanding why, like it might be cheesy now, but like in the proper context, this actually was really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that
So
it's. Go ahead.
have you guys heard this band called Witset?
Mm-mm.
It's like a modern sort of Reliant K throwback style band, but they covered Stephen Curtis Chapman's Dive, and you can stream it on Apple Music and Spotify, and it's just kind of an interesting mashup of worlds. A band in 2025
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
covering Stephen Curtis Chapman in the vein of Reliant K.
That's
So
cool.
check out
I will
Witset.
have to check that out for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I'm thankful for you guys digging into this album, Andrew. Thanks for bringing it to us so that it was so fun going back and listening to it and trying to figure out, was this what I remembered it being or not? And in a lot of ways it was, and in a lot of ways it wasn't. So I really enjoyed doing that. All right, let's dig into what is the lyric of the week.
It's time for the lyric of the time.
So the lyric of the week this week is, there's a hole the size of a cruel word in a wounded heart somewhere that's learning to hide the pain. There's a thorn stuck in the conscience of someone who spoke a word in anger, and they can't wash away the stain. I'm sorry, such a hard word to say. Actually thought he had some good writing in places in this, and so I thought that was cool. Well, Andrew, thanks again for joining us today, man. It's been a good time. Where can people find you in the world, or do you want people to find you in the world?
So if you go to like the downtown market at night, I'll be hiding in a dark corner somewhere. You can come find me there. No, I mean I'm not like super. You can follow me on Instagram. I think I'm X Let Mookie Dance X, which is a throwback to the old school days of straight edge hardcore.
Long story with that one, for sure.
Sure.
So that's awesome. Yeah, you can find Andrew there. And you can find us, of course, on Twitter or X at Hey Are You Pod, Facebook, Hey Are You Listening? And we'd love to have you jump on there. We'd also be super grateful if you could give the podcast a rating and even a review. Thanks to all of you who listen every week. We are thankful that you are on this journey with us, and we're looking forward to the days ahead as we continue to dig in to this world of Christian music.
Hey, are you listening? This ain't no quiet thing. We're screaming out our